welcome to the 5th game of the 2012 high school football season. Tonight we're in Greendale where it's homecoming for the Panthers. In the house as well as the New Berlin Eisenhower Lions. If there is ever a football game that you would want to see, it's when these two teams play. They have provided many interesting games in the past, and I'm sure tonight will be no exception. Greendale comes in tonight at 3-1, while Eisenhower comes in at 2-2. Things got off to an interesting start as Greendale would see their first of many penalty flags before the clock even started. They ended up showing up to the field late, which is a 10-yard penalty. Eisenhower would also make it interesting as they would try an onside kick to start the game, of which they could have had, but the Eisenhower player could not hang on to the ball. As a result, Greendale would start their first drive on the 33. They would run a wide variety of plays, taking the ball all the way to the Ike Street before running back Frankie Rakowski would cross the goal line, capping off a 9-play, 67-yard drive. Rakowski, who also does the kick, made the extra point, and now the score was 7-0 with 9:10 left in the opening quarter of play. After the ensuing kick, the Lions would start their first drive of the night from their 47 after a huge return. Seven plays later, they crossed the goal line as Steve Harrell would run it in from 2 yards out. Erickson would make his kick, and just like that, the score was tied at 7 with 6:03 left in the first quarter. Greendale would start their next drive on their 25. They put a 14-play drive together that was riddled with penalty flags before the Lions ended up stopping them on their 10-yard line. The Lions would now take possession of the ball. They would run 3 plays, taking the game into the second quarter before being forced to punt on their own end zone. After the kick, Greendale would begin from their 38. Ten plays later, the men in black would cross the goal line again as Josh Ringelberg would take it in from 5 yards out. Rakowski's kick would be blocked, making the score 13-7 Panthers with 8:37 left in the first half. The Lions would jump right back in this game as Nick Kolasek would take the ensuing kick and sprint it 92 yards the other way for another Eisenhower touchdown. Erickson would make the kick, and Eisenhower was now up 14-13 with 8:23 left in the half. The Panthers would try to respond as they would be starting from their 20. They would get off several plays as the yellow flag continued to haunt them. Their back against the wall, Ringelberg would do a quick kick on 3rd down, trying to get themselves out of a hole. After a short kick with a nice roll, the Lions would begin in Greendale's territory on the 45. Plays later, they would reach the end zone once again as Harrell took a handoff up the middle from 29 yards out and scored. Erickson would split the uprights, making the score 21-13 in favor of the Lions with 7:17 left in the first half. Panthers now had their work cut out for them, for it appeared that Ike came in ready to play. They would have an answer as they would put a 15-play scoring drive together that was finished off by a 2-yard run by Ringelberg. Greendale would go for 2 and convert as Ringelberg would roll to his right and didn't see anybody open, so he took it himself. This would tie the score up at 21s with 49 seconds left in a very busy first half. Ike would get the ball back and run 2 plays before the half finally came to an end. Eisenhower would get the ball first and start from their 35 to start the second half. 3 plays later, they would smoke the Panthers as Nick Taylor would take a handoff around the right side of his line for a huge 52-yard jaunt to the end zone. Erickson made his kick, and Ike was back on top by a score of 28-21 with 10:57 left in the third quarter. After a nice return on the ensuing kick, Greendale would start their first drive of the second half on their 37. 4 plays later, Ringelberg would see that the Eisenhower safety was cheated way over, which opened the door and allowed Mitchell Breeze some room over the middle for a 48-yard scoring strike. Rakowski would split the uprights, tying this game back up at 28 with 9:12 left in the third quarter. This game was now turning into a tennis match as both teams could not stop each other. That trend would continue as the Lions would start their next drive from the 20 and reach the end zone in 10 plays as Harrell would take it in those last few yards for a score. This This time the kick would be blocked, making the score 34-28 in favor of the Lions with 5:52 left in the third quarter. Now it was the Panthers' turn to serve. It was here where they put a time-consuming 13-play scoring drive together as Ringelberg would eventually reach pay dirt from 14 yards out. Lo and behold, that kick would be blocked, tying this game back up at 34 with 1:45 still left in the third quarter. Bukowski's kick would reach the end zone, forcing the Lions to start from their 20. The men in black got lucky on this drive as they let an Ike receiver get wide open down the field, of which the ball was overthrown. This would bring up fourth down, so they would have to punt from their 30. After Greendale finally broke serve, they would bring their offense back out and set up on their 34 with 11:46 left in the fourth quarter. They would quickly move into Eisenhower territory on a huge 40-yard run by running back Jake Sawicki. It was here that the Panthers were having trouble on the offensive line as there seemed to be a lot of false starts. They were all upset that the defense was barking out false signals, which was causing them to jump. The referees were not picking this up, which had the Panther coaches upset. Greendale would eventually get to the 15 before Ringelberg threw an interception in the back of the end zone, putting an end to their drive. There was now 9:36 left in the game, and Ike had the ball on their 20. He would run 3 plays, including this huge gainer by quarterback Vince Gabrielson that was called back by a holding penalty. He would eventually be forced to punt from their 22. After the punt, Greendale would now try to untie this game as they would begin from their 36. They failed to take advantage of that situation, and they were forced to punt going 3 and out. On the punt, Eisenhower would make a huge mistake as the return man tried to make an ill-advised catch on the run and mishandled the ball. Greendale's Tristan Pipp would recover it, and just like that, Greendale was back on offense on Ike's 38. That turnover would cost Eisenhower for 6 plays later. Ringelberg would take it himself from 14 yards out for the go-ahead score. Bukowski would make the kick, and now Greendale was back on top by a score of 41-34 with 3:40 left in the game. Based on the way this game has been going, there was still plenty of time left for the Lions. They would get the ball and start this drive on their 20. 6 plays later, Greendale's defense made probably the biggest play of the game as Jack Ringelberg would intercept the ball at midfield, giving it right back to his twin brother and the rest of the Panther offense. With a minute 21 left, Greendale was now going to try to run this clock out so that they could end the game. Ike had different plans, however, as they used all of their timeouts and stopped the Panthers, forcing them to punt from Ike's 47. 4 plays later, Greendale's defense would come up big again as Breeze would intercept the pass at the Eisenhower 47. All Greendale had to do was take a knee to end this crazy game. The Panthers would win by a score of 41-34. This game was not the easiest game to watch for those with weak hearts. Both teams had trouble stopping each other's offense the entire game. In fact, it seemed like the only way a team could be stopped is if they were to stop themselves. This game will be remembered just like the one back in 2007 when Greendale won 28-27 in triple overtime under a huge rainstorm. Greendale will now improve to 4-1 while Eisenhower falls to 2-3 for the year. Greendale will travel to New Berlin West next week while Eisenhower heads to Wauwatosa West to take on the Trojans. As it stands, Pewaukee defeated the Trojans 27-6 tonight, so it looks like Pewaukee will be sitting in a real good position to capture this year's Woodland West Conference Championship. All the games will start next week at 7 o'clock. Hope to see you all there. So long.